Hello everyone and welcome to Game 5 of the Women's World Chess Championship match between the champion Wenjun and the challenger Zhongyi. I've been mispronouncing their names for the past few videos and I probably still will as you guys, send me the proper way how to pronounce. I check on other sources on how to pronounce it, but yeah, seems like native speakers know best, and the Wenjun is obviously not pronounced Wenjun or Wenyun, but seemingly Yuven. So if that is correct, I would also appreciate a confirmation. And for Zhongyi, I don't really have any deeper analysis on how to pronounce. Zhongyi seems to be the way to go. But yeah, if you guys are native speakers, I would very much appreciate it. There are still plenty more games in the match. I would really love to know how to pronounce it most properly. But okay, we'll make do for now. So this is game 5. Game 1, as we know, ended in a draw. Then Zhongyi went for the win. Then Yuen retaliated in game 3. Game 4 ended in a draw, and now we have game 5. Yuen wielding the white pieces. Let's see what happens here. We have a very nice, exciting a variation of the Sicilian defense, the Khan variation of the Sicilian. So yeah, let's check it out. Pawn to e4 by the champion and pawn to c5. The Sicilian defense from the challenger. Knight of 3, pawn to e6, d4, captures, and pawn to a6. The Khan variation of the Sicilian. Bishop to d3 and bishop to c5. Challenging the knight, we have knight to b3. And as you've already put all of your pawns on light squares, you want to really safeguard this dark square bishop. So bishop all the way back to a7. We'll be controlling this long diagonal. We have castles kingside, knight to e7. And now queen to e2 is a bit more popular here. We have pawn to c4, grabbing the d5 square completely. Knight b to c6, and now knight to c3. We have knight to e5, extremely rare move. So rare that there is only one game in the database from the Amsterdam Interzonal Tournament of 1964 between Bela Berger and Francisco Jose Perez. Where in that game king to h1 was played. But here we have pawn to c5 by Yuen, and it is not as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So okay, the bishop is now for the moment out of the game, but you do lose some of the control you had over the d5 square. You gain more control over the d6 square. So let's see what the champion had in mind. We have knight 7 to g6 and the bishop back to e2, saying that okay, you didn't want to capture on d3. Well, I could go for activity with f4, maybe f5. I'm gonna save the bishop for now. So bishop to e2, pawn to b5, and now pawn to f4. Striking against the knight on e5, we have knight to c4, and now pawn to a4. And objectively, the game is already lost for black. Here, a4 was played, which is almost the best move. Queen to d4 is the best move, but it just looks... It looks almost impossible that you can place the queen on this diagonal. I mean, it's so easy to attack this pawn with d6 later on. But point is that after, let's say, castles, because the g7 pawn is hanging as well, castles, now you undermine the knight with pawn to a4. b4, you trade knights, bishop captures, b captures, and now you just continue attacking f5. And if knight to h4, you will go b captures on c3. And if something like pawn to d6, you don't care, just g3, and after, let's say, rook b8, trying to capture the defender of the c5 pawn to play bishop captures on c5 and win the queen, cold-bloodedly just go bishop to e3, and there's nothing here for black. White is completely winning. There's just no good move you can make. Also, the knight here has no squares, so it's a pretty bad position. Yuen went for pawn to a4, and now pawn to b4. Bishop captures on c4, b captures on c3. We have b captures and bishop to b7. Putting pressure on that e4 pawn, and while you could continue with pawn to f5, it wouldn't be the best. If you play something like pawn to f5 here, then knight to e5, and you can no longer play queen to d4, and queen to d4 sorry about that, is crucial in all of these lines. Now that the bishop is hanging, once you take care of the bishop, then you can just go e captures on f5, and white is simply not in time for queen to d4. So after bishop to b7, queen to e2 was played again, queen d4, the best possible move. Yeah, I guess the queen on this diagonal, it's not an easy thing, not an easy decision for a World Chess Championship match. Castles king side, we have bishop to d3 and now pawn to f5. And sorry, pawn to f5 by Tan Zhongyi, and queen to c7 was definitely a better option, or even pawn to e5, as you really don't care about pawn to f5. Imagine pawn to f5, you can simply capture, captures, you go knight e5, and nothing there. The bishop still attacked. If you play pawn to f6, you can just go rook f to e8, and there is no way to put pressure on that black king. Black is even better here. So after bishop to d3, we have pawn to f5, and now e captures on f5, e captures, and bishop to e3. So this creates some problems for black, as it weakens the black king. Queen to c7, bishop captures on a6. Tan decided to give up this pawn on the a file for some counterplay. Those bishops look awfully mighty there, like, you know, let's say Akiba's bishops in Rubinstein's Immortal Game. But they still have to be employed properly. We have rook f to e8, and bishop captures on b7. Queen captures, and now queen to c4 check, defending the knight. King to h8, and bishop to d4. Now the bishop is, well, just a monster bishop, and this is what Wenjun wanted, to have a bishop on d4, not a queen on d4. We have rook to e6, and now you should play queen b5 and grab more space. Pawn to h3, the move that was played, there's no need for it. Black is not threatening anything, so queen b5 would have been more precise with a double attack on the queen and on the pawn. But okay, h3, we have rook a to e8, and now rook to f2, preparing to double up on the f-file, as black is obviously trying to organize some sort of an attack against this f4 pawn. Bishop to b8, and rook a to f1. We have knight captures on f4. And here, it's a very, very difficult position for Tan. Probably a slow move like bishop to c7, just waiting to see what the white's plan is. Maybe later on, this bishop either will keep attacking the pawn, also helps out maybe with the defense of the queen side. Maybe you can remaneuver it over to the king side, but you have to slow play it. There is no clear breakthrough here for white, but it's move 26. You have to, you know, reach time control. Even though Tan has more time on the clock, she decided to trade everything and go after the white king. Knight captures on f4. Rook captures, bishop captures. We have rook captures on f4 and rook to e1 with check. You have to capture. If you go king h2, then queen to c7, then you have problems. So rook to f1, captures, and now queen to e4, threatening mate in 1. And there is only one way for the champion Wenjun to keep winning advantage here, but only one way. Feel free to pause the video and try to figure out this elusive idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this, well, as we've described it, elusive idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to g1. It's the only move, and there the white king is not getting checkmated. Queen to b1 check was played, king h2, and now rook to e1, going after rook to h1 check, but it doesn't matter. Still, you have to play precisely. If you just, you know, start pushing, then you give black drawing chances. But after queen d5, which is very, very precise, there's just not much you can do. If you continue with rook h1 check and you start giving checks to the white king, there's a bishop f2, and yes, there is this tricky pawn to f4 check move where if you capture you lose the bishop, but just king f3, and once queen captures on c3, check is played, you go king g4, and there is no capturing that king. You cannot advance the g pawn, otherwise bishop d4 check picks up the queen, and h6, while it can be played, doesn't really do all that much. The knight quickly comes into the game, and then the black king, well, either gets checkmated or black will suffer severe material loss. So after queen to d5, pawn to h6 right away, Tan's only option is that somehow maybe you play f4, maybe, you know, create some breathing room for your king, and also restrict the squares that the white king can go to, and then go for rook to h1 check. Maybe he runs into some sort of either checkmate or maybe a possible perpetual, but not if Wenjun well, proceeds precisely. Knight to d2 is a very precise way to proceed. Rook to h1 check, king to g3, queen to e1 with check, and bishop to f2, where the queen nicely defends the knight. and the king defends the bishop. We have queen to e2 and queen to d4, not allowing any counterplay. Now the queen also defends the f4 square, and now it's time to either advance the a pawn, or depending on what black does, go after the black king. We have rook to d1, attacking the knight, and bishop to e3. The only way to continue playing for the win. King to h7, and now pawn to a5, pushing the passed pawn, rook to e1, going after the bishop, and now we have a repetition here, bishop to f2. The problem is, this is move 39. One more move needs to be made in order for time control to be reached, and you want it to be a precise one. So here, Yuan basically forces a repetition, but only for one move in order to gain more time. So rook to d1, attacks the knight, and now she repeats bishop to e3, gaining more time on the clock. Rook to e1 repeating, and now she goes knight to c4, now gaining additional time. Okay, the bishop is defended. So what do you do? Of course, you can't go rook g1 as the bishop covers the g1 square. So rook to a1, maybe you can somehow put pressure on that g2 pawn. Knight to d6, we have rook to a2, and now bishop to f2, restricting the queen's access to the g2 pawn. Queen to e6, and now queen to f4, putting pressure on that f5 pawn. King to g6 defending, and king to h2. We have queen to f6, knight to c4, and king to h7. We have bishop to d4, attacking the queen. Queen to e6, and now knight to d6, again putting pressure on f5. Queen to g6, hoping for some knight captures on f5, and then queen captures with checkmate. Or if queen captures, then there's this tricky rook captures on g2 check, which does not ensure a perpetual or a draw, but it will, prolong the game unnecessarily. So after queen g6, we have the simple queen to f3, defending on g2, and now pawn to f4, trying to restrict the white king even further. And of course, if queen captures, then you checkmated the white king. We have pawn to a6, and finally either the pawn advances and then you capture it at some point. So Yuan is basically trading the a pawn for the f pawn, and there's not much you can do about it. You have to capture it. Queen captures on f4 also now improves the mobility of your king, and there is no threat of checkmate. So rook a2, threatening checkmate again, and queen to f3. We have queen to e6, knight to f5, and pawn to g5. Now this is the only, this is the last stand. Either you can do something to the white king, or you resign. We have knight e3, pawn to d6, c6, creating a passed pawn, and rook to a8. We have knight to d5, now already within reach of the black king. Rook to c8, going after the c pawn, and queen to d3 with check, king to g8, and here there are many ways to finish the game. Yuan finishes it brilliantly with knight to e7 check, and he was in this position on move 59 that the challenger Tan Zhongyi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So you either, well, first obviously let's see what happens if you capture the knight. If you capture the knight, then it's a matter of queen g6 check. You cannot block with the queen, the bishop covers that. If you go to h8, that is impossible. So you have to go to f8, and then we go after the king. Queen to f5 with check, king to e8. Now you pick up the rook with check, and now a couple of checks with the queen. Check, 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 check. And once you finally play queen to f8 with check, you will trade, and after captures, pawn to c7. The other pawn promotes, and that is it. And after knight to e7 check, you don't have to you don't have to capture the knight, but if you don't, king to f8, the knight captures on c7, queen captures, queen h7. Okay, you're down a full piece. Of course, you are dead lost here. There's nothing to do. Also, the passed pawn is marching forward. If you capture the pawn, then bishop to f6, and you're checkmating the black king. Not much you can do about this. Queen to e4, maybe to guard this square, but then you play queen captures on e4, so basically there is no way for you to guard either of these two squares, and that is pretty much it. So yeah, after 97, a very fine finishing position. But yeah, what a crazy game. It's not every day that you have, what do we say? This was like, let me just quickly go through this. Yeah, here, after this, when a4 was played, queen d4 is basically objectively a winning advantage here, and we have it already on move 12. So absolutely incredible. Well, it wasn't played to perfection because, yeah, it also required to take a lot of risks to calculate, burn a lot of time, but this was obviously sufficient. And Yuan, the world champion, takes the lead again in the match. Not again, she actually retaliated in game 3. She takes the lead for the first time in the match, and we'll see what happens. This is as this will be a first half of the match will be played in Yuan's hometown of Shanghai, and the other half of the match will be played in the hometown of Zhongyi. Still not sure how to pronounce it, Choqing, something like that. But yeah, obviously now she will have the home field advantage. So we'll see how it goes. Very much enjoying the match so far. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely played by the world champion. I would like to thank Peter Van Dulst, Derek King, Charles Benjamin Flynn, Diane Schwartz, and Ilya Maltsev for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check upon your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.